Good day, everyone. This time I'm back into discussing something about our ongoing COVID situation, but with a different basis, with a different emphasis. Because I found very interesting information that I didn't know about, but it is currently used as many people discusses torture, but also psychological torture, emotional abuse, and the like. This is an ancient work from a psychologist, a colleague with the name Albert Biderman. He published a work back in 1957 with the title Communist Attempts to Elicit False Confessions from Air Force Prisoners of War. This same work from him has been quoted by Amnesty International in a famous report on torture in 1975. And there is a precious chart in this work where he discusses the coercive methods that can be used to elicit compliance, to make people surrender to torturers, to enforcers of something. And to me, this is actually very important to be discussed nowadays, because whether or not we believe in masterminds conducting the whole world situation with COVID, we are going through something that is extremely similar to the 8 steps in this chart. The steps are isolation of the victim, of course, monopolization of perception, induced debilitation and exhaustion, threats, occasional indulgences, demonstrating omnipotence and omniscience, degradation, and enforcing trivial demands. So, what we are going through is amazingly similar. First, we have been isolated. We are still isolated from each other with the distance, with the masks, with staying at home, with many different measures. We are isolating the elderly. We are now, in a way, isolating children, or we are invited or ordered to do so. But isolation weakens us. It separates us from social networks, from feeling the support from family, friends, from each one towards each other. It debilitates us. It weakens us. It weakens our will to resist, to fight back, or to just assert who we are and our rights. So we have then monopolization of perception. That's what happens when the mass media are almost systematically owned by big corporations that impose their agendas through the mass media. Whether or not there is a global agenda, I cannot say, but we are continuously bombarded by an excess of information about COVID that promotes anxiety, fear, that promotes, in a way, competition and mistrust towards each other. So this, of course, brings doubt, brings confusion, brings a difficulty to process correctly, to search for the truth, because we are also bombarded with fake news, some of them apparently produced by promoters of vaccines and the like. And we see also supposed important or useful information coming from the CDC, coming from the World Health Organization, or from people like Bill Gates, who apparently is not a medical doctor, but seems to know a lot about vaccines. Now, the thing is that we are bombarded like this, but apparently someone else is choosing for us what kind of information we have access to. And we have a vast censorship of information that might be going against established interests. Then again, we have induced debilitation and exhaustion. same product of this total bombardment. We see depression and anxiety disorders increasing all over the place in the world. And partially they are coming from impotence, this feeling that there is this mass, this huge monster that is the COVID, that is everywhere. And we are told that there is nothing we can do about it, but to retreat in fear, to shrink in fear, to wear masks, to wash our hands all the time and do that kind of thing. Nobody is telling us that we can assert our will, we can control our body, we can improve our immunity, we can exercise, we can socialize and the like. Then we have threats all the time. Threats many times coming now from the police, from the government. Threats that we must comply or else we get in major trouble. But also threats against our health, mental health, physical health. We feel all the time that we are becoming endangered. And this is also being imposed on us in a way. We have occasional indulgences. So the torturers that Biderman studied sometimes would grant some relief to their victims, showing their power, also in a way their generosity, so that victims would feel like thankful towards them. Well, our governments and some major corporations seem to be doing exactly the same thing. From time to time we get some relief. We can mingle with others a little bit more. We can even have some amount of access to stuff that we took for granted in the past. We can be a little bit more in touch with our family or friends. We can get out of our house. We can move around with lots of caution, of course. So, indulgences. Perhaps we should be really thankful to our governments because of them. We have demonstrations of omnipotence and omniscience, where we are told that we don't know anything about what is going on. Major experts know everything about it. But from the contradictions coming from the World Health Organization, from the conflicts of interest we see in them and the CDC from the US and many areas, as we see also that major corporations fighting to produce vaccines are trying to get over the usual restraints coming from science, trying to get billions of dollars from mass vaccination. We see confusion, but we see also this omnipotence and this arrogance of major powers that impose everything. But apparently they don't really know what they are talking about, or perhaps they do know. Perhaps they have an agenda. It's obvious nowadays that some people are trying to profit the most with the major crisis they are also promoting to some extent. And we see police in many countries abusing authority, probably under some instructions from governments. We see this imposition, this forceful imposition all over the place. We might think that to some extent this might be necessary as a protection for populations, but the dangers are there, and we know that many governments will have a hard trouble getting back to respect for human rights. Then we have degradation of the prisoner in the work from Biderman, but now it's general degradation of people in some ways. We all know the expression losing our face, where, well, in a way we are losing our face continuously because we have to wear masks, and the masks make us sort of faceless. And our emotional expression goes mostly into the face. With the masks, we have nothing like there. We become literally nobody to other people. They become nobody to us. We can come across friends in the street without recognizing them sometimes. This has consequences to our emotional well-being, of course. And we are humiliated nowadays because if you don't agree with the general bombardment and the major control over our perception of reality, we are humiliated, we are degraded, we are attacked, we are condemned. Sometimes we are even imprisoned. We are forced to wear our masks and to become faceless. Again, I don't imply that this is going under the purpose of some criminal mastermind, but the effects are there. The way things are correspond to this. Then we have enforcing trivial demands. It's sort of a paradox to many people because in the context of torture, torturers sometimes will ask people severely to perform stupid tasks like you must write your name. Well, now we are forced to do trivial things like washing our hands, like being careful where we go, how we go about our lives. We are forced to pay attention to things that we were used to pay attention to, but in a nice, normal way. Now we are forced to do trivial things with consequences again. This shows, again, omnipotence from the authorities that be. But of course, I think we must resist all this. We must fight the negative effects. So there is isolation. We should learn more about going deeply inside of ourselves, feeling the love we have to give others, feeling respect to others and ourselves, and move towards others with a helping hand, with love, with compassion. We can still call our friends, we can still meet them, we can still move against isolation. We can feel and cultivate the idea that we are part of the humankind, not accepting degradation. Against the monopolization of perception, well, we can refuse to just listen to the mass media and search to information in many other areas. And we can also learn again to trust information from our own selves, from our soul, from our deep feelings, from our intuition, because we really need it nowadays. To know more about what is right or wrong, what might be truth or what might be deception. Then there is this exhaustion and debilitation. We can exercise, we can protect our health, we can eat properly, not junk food, please. We can meet our body's necessities, you can meet other people in many ways. Well, there is threats. Against threats, we can cultivate our will. We can feel that we have good reasons to stay alive. We have good reasons to protect our dignity. We have good reasons to be at the service of humanity. And we can cultivate courage out of love, perhaps. We can feel that we must assert our human rights, our collective rights. We should protect humanity within us and everywhere towards a better future, not towards ongoing torture or towards a dark future of major powers controlling everything everywhere, like the information we are entitled to have access to. Well, against occasional indulgences, We must be wide aware of what we are entitled to, our rights, our dignity, and we can assert that everywhere, all the time. We must get back to knowing exactly what are our rights. And we must, I think, protect them in ourselves and in others in a nice, decent way. And against omnipotence and omniscience, of course, we know ignorance are ruling the world. We have rulers who are myopian in their views. They are tribal. They are not able to look at the whole planet, at the humanity as a whole. They are protecting their little rights. They are protecting their little groups of interest. They are obeying their masters, and we know lots of politicians are owned by corporations, and this is not what we need. So we can no longer believe in the omnipotence of the information. Also from the medical profession, we see that big pharma is able to buy lots of scientists. Big tobacco did the same in the past. We know that. They can hire and pay scientists to become intellectual prostitutes, asserting not the truth, but something that is in tune with economical interests. So unfortunately, we can no longer trust quite a number of medical professionals and biological researchers also, even when it is absolutely necessary that we are able to keep a deep respect for all of them. The ones who try to fight for truth, and even the ones who have sold their minds to the highest bidders. Degradation is something that we can also refuse, of course. We must assert our dignity and our freedom. Freedom is again becoming a sort of a rare commodity, and it's time to fight for it. Over the seas, on the air, on land, many different ways. Fight for it in our minds, fight for it in society. And you have enforcing trivial demands, something quite ridiculous, and it's good to keep a perspective about it. We don't really need to feel that normal things must be enforced. It's normal, and it's good actually to learn about it, to keep our hygiene, to pay attention not to eventually send our contagion to other people. It's good to pay attention to others, but in a benevolent way, keeping our faces, at least our internal faces, and respecting them as individuals with everything they are, because mostly they are human. And this is what I wanted to discuss for today. So if you like, please comment, share, subscribe the channel, and I'll be back soon.